So we have finally come to the category where we take a look at the weirdest characters in the Zelda series.
This category is one that actually inspired us to start our own channel and making lists. And we got this idea from one of PeanutButterGamer's old videos. It's been close to 6 years since this came out? Holy sh**!
Yep. It was around that time we decided and started planning to play all the games together and do our thing on this channel. And we finally get to make our own list of this category.
The Zelda universe is full of strange and weird characters, as you have probably seen from our earlier videos and from playing the games yourself. And now it is time to show you the 10 characters that we find to be the weirdest.
There are probably a bunch of characters that could have made it onto the list, but nonetheless, this is the list we picked. So let us know in the comments if you disagree with anything.
Thanks to all of these guys for letting us use the footage we need. We're TheOwnersofTriforce, I'm Owner 1.
And I'm Owner 2, and let us show you our top 10 weirdest characters in the Zelda series.
Phantom Hourglass didn't really have a bunch of characters in its world that stuck out from the rest, but the ones that did stick out were pretty different from the rest.
There were a few ships you could board out at sea, and there were some quirky ones out there, like Nieve, who's clearly a reference on how Link is in Wind Waker, with his Prince of Red Lions. Seems like the legend has reached parts outside of the Hyrule region.
However, it's in the northeastern corner of the world map you'll find our number 10 weirdest character, the Man of Smiles.
You know, smiling and being happy isn't all that weird. We haven't found it ourselves, but according to a few Zelda wiki pages, he wants to bring smiles to everybody, which is a nice thought. It's just that everything around that seems weird.
He's so overly happy and smiling that it almost becomes creepy, and he has a weird way of decorating his ship with colors and happy images when it's always filled with monsters. And I mean always filled with monsters. Every time you should return, the same enemies will be there, and defeating them gives you a prize, like the prize postcard that you can post at the mailbox, to then receive a prize later. It's also pretty weird how he just abandons his real name to go with the nickname of the Man of Smiles.
But the first time you get rid of the monsters on his ship, he'll start a trading sequence by giving you the hero's new clothes, which are invisible. But for some reason, Nieve can see them, and he'll gladly take them off your hands. How?
He's just a suspicious and strange dude. He has good thoughts of bringing smiles to the world, but we're not exactly sure how he's going to do that. This character joined the series very recently, and it wasn't that long ago that we spoke about him, seeing as he's a character from Triforce Heroes.
Our pick for this list is definitely the photo bro. Nothing just seems right about him. His appearance is the strangest thing, as the shape of his head gets bigger towards his mouth.
Speaking of his mouth, what is the deal with it? It's so wide, but also really narrow, vertically. It also seems to be placed a bit too far below his weird mustache.
His glasses don't make him look better, and that hair just makes him look so freaking strange. All of this practically goes for the rumor guy from A Link Between Worlds 2, since they both look exactly alike. But it is the photo bro who takes the weirdness even further.
And that is in the way he's supposed to be really hip, to put it that way. He is the owner of the photo shop in Hytopia, but instead of being the owner of the thing, he's just called the photo bro. And again, the way he talks?
Nice. Pretty swaggy, don't you think?
Swagadelic, man, yeah!
Maybe he has swag, and maybe that's fine in the real world. However, if you are a character like this in a Zelda game, you are destined to end up on someone's weirdest characters list.
When it comes to the shopkeepers, Rupin might be the weirdest. He's very dedicated to his job, we'll give him that, but he also seems to be a tad desperate.
It's fine when you try to make a sale, but he's all up in your face with that stupid grin of his. That fez and those big red cheeks don't make him look any less of a monkey we could see on The Simpsons either.
You can easily tell that he really wants you to buy something, and tries to be as nice as possible, but he mostly comes off as a weird guy.
Just as you move towards his shop, he's ready to tell you about his products, but if you turn away, he'll just give up with a but if you walk towards the shop again, he's back to his overly eager movements.
It's also funny when you look at one of his products, and then decide not to buy it, because then he'll just look at you with a face that's practically saying, "Are you kidding me?" Before he becomes your friend again and says, "Oh, it's alright."
We also find it hilarious how he might give up on you just because you sometimes actually need to turn your back to him so that you can look at the rest of the wares around the corner before he's right there with you again.
It's alright that you try to be friendly and want to make some sales, but jeez, don't exhaust yourself. Just like Phantom Hourglass, the other DS game has a decent lineup of unique characters. Some are interested in trains, others are interested in saving rabbits. And you know what? Saving rabbits is a good thing, which is a side quest you can do in Spirit Tracks. You catch them and bring them to the Rabbitland Rescue, which is run by none other than this incredibly, stupidly weird-looking man, Bunnyo.
What he does is actually really nice, but as you can see, what makes him weird is his stupid outfit. Did he shrink his clothes in the washer or what? Is he really supposed to look like that?
There's not much else really. He doesn't act all that weird, it's mainly just his appearance. The whole thing gets funnier if you do the side quest of bringing his wife to him. Just like us, she's really questioning the outfit.
To which he has trouble explaining, and we can't blame him. Keep up the good work with the rabbits, man. But please, for God's sake, get some new clothes. The Zelda series have had their fair share of postmen, and we gotta say, most that have them have some quirky sides to them. The Rito tribe in Wind Waker is pretty much the only exception, as their whole race is pretty cool and none of the characters there, let alone the postmen, are that weird.
But pretty much every human incarnation of the postman have their weird characteristics. We'll start with Majora's Mask, where the postman is so dedicated to his job and his schedule that he won't leave Clocktown to avoid his death by the moon's crashing, because the schedule doesn't say he can. What logic is that? Always go with safety, you lunatic! He does get away if you go through with a side quest though, and seems really happy about that.
Then we have the postman in Twilight Princess. This guy isn't all that weird, except for how he calls at you and runs whenever he has something to deliver. But another strange thing is how he apparently reaches any place in Hyrule. He can be found at the ranch in Orlem Village, in the inn at Kakariko Village, seemingly have a meal at Telma's bar, in Sonora's domain for some reason, and even at the end of Cave of Ordeals. For some reason, we don't feel as awesome anymore to make it all the way down there, if he also made it there. How? What? I don't even.
In Phantom Hourglass, they went the Wind Waker route and have the postman flying, and while he looks pretty weird with his face and those wings, he does something really unnecessary. Letters are supposed to be private, but he reads them out loud to you instead of delivering. While you meet the postman who has a letter for you, he reads it while people, like Linebeck here, stands in the background and can probably hear all of it. Not to mention, at one point, he even reads the wrong letter to you, as in a letter meant to be delivered to someone else, and then asks you to deliver it to the right person for him. What's happened to privacy?
And lastly, Spirit Tracks. In Phantom Hourglass, he flies. In Spirit Tracks, he tries to mimic a train. That's already pretty weird. The funny thing here is that he points out that they stopped reading the letters out loud due to many complaints. Oh, really? So he just hands it over instead. The postman has had a bunch of strange incarnations, and whether they're too dedicated to the job, have the ability to reach any place in the world, ruins all sorts of privacy, or acts like a choo-choo train, we decided to put them all in one entry on this list. There is no way we were gonna have a weirdest characters list without the happy mask salesman. He makes a pretty brief appearance in Ocarina of Time, where he runs a mask shop.
While it can be said to have just a few teeny tiny quirks there, it's in Majora's Mask where he really steps up with the weirdness.
Pretty much everyone knows about this guy by now, but we'll have to tell you about him anyway. He is mysterious, somewhat creepy, but also very weird. If his grin isn't all that strange to you, then maybe his sudden movements and mood changes are.
He gets really mad when he finds out that you don't have Majora's Mask when you return to him after he expected you to have it. He goes from super happy, to mad, then to crazy, to happy again, to hopeful, to hopeless, then back to crazy, then he's begging you, and then back to happy.
We understand that having Majora's Mask in the wrong hands can lead to terrible things, like he explains, and what we get to see throughout the game. But still, his way of showing so many expressions and emotions in such a short time, and change his mood from angry to happy and then to faithful towards Link, certainly makes him weird.
Oh yeah, and then there's the organ he suddenly sets up in a second, and that is gone in the next. We have no explanation for that, and even he doesn't seem to have one, since he never mentions it or shows it again after he teaches you the Song of Healing.
At the very end, he retrieves his mask, but he still does all of his weird and sudden movements, before he suddenly vanishes. How strange.
There have been some weird villains in the series. Not all of them have been really that strange, but there's characters like Girahim and Yuga. The thing with those two is that we always saw them for what they were. They were both pretty weird from the beginning when we saw them, and not much changes about them. They just didn't surprise us anymore, even though they were fantastically weird and funny, especially Girahim.
We don't really want to put many major characters into this list because we want to focus more on the characters that might not be that important to the story and such. So, when we're picking just one villain, we choose to go for the one that surprised us the most. Zant.
Zant started off as this really cool villain, as in he was calm but still really threatening. He seemed to have great powers and covered big parts of Hyrule in Twilight, commands shadow beasts, and forced Princess Zelda to surrender.
He really had that threatening presence all the way through. We didn't get to see him all the time, but every time he appeared, he'd do something to prove just how strong he could be. He wiped away Naru and left Midna for dead after very little effort. He could also revive dead monsters.
He seemed really powerful and it looked like he wouldn't take crap from anyone. But as Link and Midna confront him in his own palace, our impression of him started to change. Just as he did that weird twist, my face went all WTF, and I just couldn't understand what was going on. He starts to go freaking ape, spins around, crying out weird noises.
This behavior shows throughout the whole battle against him. Now, it can be said that the Twilight are people from a different world, and there shouldn't be any surprise if they would behave a little differently from humans in Hyrule. But that twist literally changed everything about him. It was so surprising to see him go from that cool, cold-blooded villain to the weird, insane, power-hungry fool, which is why we placed him on this list.
Oh, did we say that Rupin's probably the weirdest shopkeeper? Scratch that, because that prize certainly goes to Malo from Twilight Princess.
No kidding. Malo is one of the strangest things we've ever seen in the Zelda series. He's the youngest child in the Orlan village at the age of 4 to 6. Besides looking really strange in general, with those big cheeks and just weird face, he really acts like a smart ass, which is shown early in the game when we go through a few tutorials.
He becomes more of a smartass when he and the other children finally feel safe in Kakariko village after being kidnapped, as he actually opens a shop. You see posters of his silly baby face outside the shop, and Malo Mart is now a business. And it's not just a play pretend shop either. It's a freaking real shop with shields and potions and arrows being sold.
What's even crazier is that if you donate enough money, he actually starts a chain of Malo Marts. As the snobby shop that belongs to Chudley suddenly changes into this freak show. Now there's incredibly weird music playing, which the customers and Malware, as it's now called, suddenly dance to. There are posters and freaking statues of Malo placed everywhere. And everything's just wow.
Again, he's just 4 to 6 years old. He's actually freaking talented at this, but that doesn't stop him from being totally weird.
Toilets. It's where we humans go to dispose ourselves of our human waste. Why exactly we keep finding a hand sticking out of one through the series is something we really have to question.
There are 3 games in the series that has a hand sticking out of the toilet, where the very first one is Majora's Mask, of course. At the Stockpot Inn, you can walk into the bathroom at midnight and find the hand reaching out for paper. Which begs the question, why would he rather have paper to wipe himself while being down there, where he would just stay in the waste, rather than ask for help to be pulled out of there?
If you help him out with paper, he'll give you a piece of heart before pulling his hand down again. Just, what the fuck's going on? Does he live down there?
You can also find the hand in an outhouse in Lina Village in Oracle of Ages. Just like in Majora's Mask, the person is in need of paper, and if you give him the stationery, he'll give you a stink bag. Really? He gives me the shit that's down there? Apparently the crap inside has magical powers because the stench clears the cold of a tokai. What?
The final hand you find in the series yet is in Skyward Sword, where there's a ghostly hand of a female in the bathroom of the Knight Academy. Guess what she needs? Yup, paper. This side quest can go 2 ways, as the paper you're supposed to give her is Colin's slow letter for Karain. If you give the letter to Karain, she'll say that she doesn't need it anymore before she disappears.
But if you do give the letter to the hand, and by the way, we love how Link looks over to the bathroom as soon as Colin tells him to deliver the letter to this special person. But she will think that the letter was for her, and that's where things get a little creepy.
She says that she'll use it with care, and that she's shy and don't want to tell us why she needs it. Which is something we're kinda wondering about. We understand that the 2 other hands needed paper, but this is a ghost. Anyway, she'll get affected by the letter and will get out of the toilet at night. Finally. Someone has the common sense to stay out of a toilet. But she'll stay at Colin's room and stroke him while it sleeps. She enjoys being in his company, but Colin just seems to be really disturbed by this, which is evident by how he looks and sounds, and how he tells about it the next morning, as he keeps having nightmares. Can't blame him though.
We really have to ask what the thing is about hands in toilets. But according to some trivia we found on zeldawiki.org, Shigeru Miyamoto says that the origin of this comes from Japanese horror stories, which would explain the thing about the ghostly figure in Skyward Sword. But that still does not put a lot of sense into the other 2, who have absolutely no horror traits, and they're actually pretty funny. When you think of weird characters in the Zelda series, chances are that you think of Tingle. And what do you know? He's our number 1 weirdest.
No one should be surprised by this choice. Tingle makes a few appearances in the series after debuting in Majora's Mask. He's actually pretty helpful in that game, as he draws maps of the different areas and sells them to you for a very reasonable price. Plus, he tries to help out his father, who runs the Swamp Tourist Center guide with the money he makes on selling maps.
The weird thing, well, things about him is that he believes he is a reincarnation of a fairy, which could explain the green clothing and the, red briefs on the outside. So, his appearance is pretty strange. But we believe his father when he says he should act his age, because he's 35 years old.
Not to mention how he has created his own magic words, which is a bit humorous, but then he gets all serious and tells it not to steal them. Sure, keep your words.
So, Tingle is pretty weird in Majora's Mask, but it doesn't really get less weird as the series has gone on. He makes a brief appearance in Oracle of Ages. He doesn't do all that much, but his 8-bit character design doesn't make him look any cooler.
In Four Swords Adventures, he's pretty much just annoying. If a huge drop of Force Gems comes around, he'll come flying in with his balloon and try to grab some for himself, which is just about all he does in the game.
In Minish Cap, he's actually brought in a few brothers. They all wear the same but in different colors. They aren't too weird here either, as they're mostly about the side questing of fusing kidstones. By the way, their names are Ankle, Knuckle and David Jr.? He sounds like the odd one.
But if we step back to Wind Waker, we see how he really raises his weirdness. The game is already pretty cartoony with its art style and characters, and Tingle is absolutely no exception. His movements, energy, backflipping and so on sure makes him go over the top. In this game, he deciphers charts for you, but this time at a much less reasonable price. He can actually smell charts too.
He lives in a tower that looks, for the lack of a better word, pretty damn weird. And he has two of his brothers work to make the light on top spin around. It doesn't seem like he cares about people working hard for him, and who knows if he actually shares some of his absurd amount of money from deciphering with them.
Another strange thing about him is that you actually first see him locked up behind bars on Windfall Island for stealing the pick-the-box you find in there. But there might just be another dark secret here.
As you all know, you can throw rocks, cut grass and break pots to find rupees, ammo or hearts. But another thing that often contains these things in the Zelda series is the skull. We usually just think of it as another thing you can get health and stuff from. But we never really thought that those skulls actually belonged to somebody until PeanutButterGamer pointed out in one of his videos that there are skulls around the chest where Tingle hid the pick-the-box. What does this mean? Has he killed anyone?
That aside, Tingle is a freaking weird character. He started out strange in Majora's Mask and took it further in Wind Waker. He's become a recurring character in the series and has even made his way to spin-offs. Even though hands in toilets are pretty freaking weird, Tingle is just that weird character that keeps popping up, and we probably haven't seen the last of him, which would make his spot as the #1 weirdest character in the Zelda series pretty secure. Hope you liked our weirdest characters list. If you did, then a like on this video sure would be appreciated. Don't forget to leave a comment about the ones you find especially weird in this series.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe, because we will continue on making videos, and the next one will be our top 5 forest themes. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you then.